Well, Joel Salvin, based in San Francisco, was there for Dylan's very first Christian religious concerts. Once Slow Train Coming came out, that was the first venue that Bill Graham had booked Bob Dylan in 7 nights in a row at the Fox Warfield Theater, downtown San Francisco. So Salvin was the rock critic, still is, for San Francisco Chronicle, and they all went down there expecting maybe a few songs. What's a concert? What's a new album? A few songs off the new album, and then a Bob Dylan concert. And what they got was actually a Christian revival, Bob Dylan's Christian revival tent, where he sang exclusively songs from the religious album of very strong evangelical nature. It's not like he became a Presbyterian. He became an evangelical Christian and sermonized from the stage, as well as sang all these very heavy-duty religious songs. So in my film, Joel Salvin tells the story that the next day he had published in the San Francisco Chronicle a very critical piece entitled Bob Dylan's God-Awful Gospel. And so apparently he was not home, but Bob Dylan had called his house and his wife answered, and Dylan told her, tell Mr. Salvin he's lost his license to review me. So that was pretty funny, and Joel Salvin has a number of wonderful comments in the film. I would not say that there's no Dylan music in the film, and it was not frustrating. I had my Bob Dylan band members play the soundtrack from my band. So you'll hear Scarlett Rivera's beautiful violin, you'll hear the drumming, the bass playing, and I even sing some songs that aren't Dylan songs. Maybe they're traditional songs that Dylan sang in the early years or on the Rolling Thunder Review. So when you hear the soundtrack, you'll pretty much feel it sounds like an unreleased Bob Dylan album. And we even have an accompanying a CD that had come out some time ago with some of those songs on it. So the music is Dylan-esque. And because it has so many of his band members, you'll find that it's very satisfying. You won't even realize that, Dylan isn't on the soundtrack, but it is a full musical soundtrack. You don't need rights for spoken word. Dylan has the rights to his published copyrighted music and his lyrics. But if a public person speaks in public, no matter what they say, that's not copyrighted. So we have several very strong sermons from Dylan, little excerpts on stage saying things like Russia's going to come down and attack the Middle East, and the lion will lie down with the lamb, and so on. An interesting interview with Dylan, exclusive, is in this film. No one else ever had it. It was known that he'd done an interview with KDKA in Pittsburgh in 1981 after the concert. And I had contacted KDKA, and they told me the same thing that I guess they'd been telling people for years, was the tape was lost. So I said to them, let's go find it anyway. And they were kind of perturbed to hear that, and they said, well, you'll have to speak to someone else. And I talked to their archivalist, who found it in a warehouse by the river, the Allegheny, and they said it's going to be located in thousands of boxes. There's no way we can find it. So I said, let's find it anyway. So they didn't like that. And sure enough, persistence pays off. About 2 weeks later, I got the tape in the mail. So you can see Dylan talking about his religious music. It's very fascinating. He says things like, the old songs aren't going to save him, and I'm not going to save him. So it's pretty interesting. I find that whole period very fascinating. Well, no, I think word had gotten around, certainly, by the time he was in Pittsburgh. That's where that tape you saw was from. But Dylan fans were so, in love with Dylan, and at that time he toured very rarely, only every several few years. So they would go to see him regardless, hoping to hear the old stuff, even though word had gotten around. So once they were there and it was only the religious music, some of them were very, very disappointed. Now, what occurs to me when you see people walking out and angry, it occurs to me that that was an even more profound or similar or more profound statement to when he went electric and also alienated his audience. In the early 60s, his audience was the acoustic folk music, and he went electric and abandoned and alienated his audience. even more so in the late 70s. Think about what was happening at that time. Disco was in the air, punk, Kool and the Gang. And Dylan's fans were sticking with him from the 60s because they loved that old stuff. And he comes out and now he becomes an evangelical Christian. So if there was a more antithetical place to go with music at that time than evangelical Christianity, I don't know what that was. So I think for Dylan fans, Dylan turning 70 is not the event. It's when they say, well, if Dylan's 70, how old am I? And that's when it becomes a little more shocking and personal. So it is a milestone, and like I said, I think everyone should check out the film and see a nice career retrospective. And the trailer's at bobdylanrevealed.com. I've been in touch with his management over the years. I have licensed Dylan songs and done various projects with them. My band performed at the opening and the closing of the Bob Dylan exhibit at Experience Music Project a couple of years ago, if you've heard of that, also at the Skirball. So we've been in touch with them. Dylan is himself is somewhat reclusive, doesn't do many interviews, so haven't really expected or tried to arrange an interview with Dylan himself. But a lot of people close to him, obviously, have come out and seen the band, and people from his office, and certainly, obviously, his band members. Well, I've had comments over the years, again, through friends or band members that, you know, he knows about the band and he's aware of it. He told Winston, our drummer, that when he saw him, he said, "Thanks for thinking of me." You know, so I think he considers it a compliment. You know, the corporate website, highway61ent for entertainment.com, you can see all the films, and came out with a Paul McCartney film last year. It was a lot of fun. And I think anyone would check out. You can also buy the DVD at various bookstores and online. But the place to buy it, of course, is Mr. Media. All right, thanks for having me.
For more original interviews with America's top documentary filmmakers, surf over to our main website, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. If you've enjoyed today's show, subscribe for free to Mr. Media via email, RSS, or iTunes, and you'll never miss another show. You can also listen with a piece of string and a tin can in many parts of rural Minnesota. And show your support of Mr. Media by supporting our sponsors, including Audible. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/radio for your free audiobook. We're also supported by thepartyauthority.us. Call DJ Ira for all your party entertainment needs nationwide at 1-800-DIAL-DJs or visit their website, thepartyauthority.us. If you've got an idea for a guest, a comment on today's show, or would like to advertise on Mr. Media, email me directly at bob@mrmedia.com. You can also follow Mr. Media on Facebook, Twitter, or our new YouTube video channel. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you giving up a piece of your day and spending it with Mr. Media. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time, everybody.